Big Billy, biggest wet Willie, gonna go so clearly now. Voluntary, not so silly, gotta make it out somehow. Oh, the Willie knows the way to go so clearly till the break of dawn. Gonna make it, gonna break it, gonna keep on going, gonna get it on.
Oh,
I love it. Before we went on the air, I said, "Who's Big Billy?" And then you said, "That's our song, Chuck." I love it. You can't go wrong with that, can you?
well, Big Billy, the biggest fat Willie. Well,
Ooh.
I'll tell you why I decided to give this song is because Willie is in the news. Willie.
Tell me, how is Willie in the news? Oh,
Nobody can stop talking about Prince Willie.
Prince Willie. Okay.
Big Willie, the biggest Willie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's got the biggest Willie, they say. But I don't
As you hold your magic wand in your hand there.
Wills, yes.
Wills.
Well, how have you been, sweetheart? How have you been?
I've been doing great, just working hard, a lot of different projects, art, writing, YouTube channel, live streams. It's a great time in my life, a lot of creativity. That's where I'm always my happiness. That's where I'm in my flow. And you got a taco pillow there. I've never seen that before.
Yes, in honor of Taco Tuesdays, where we all get together and we put on some comfy clothing,
Mm-hmm.
and have a drink. Maybe make yourself a margarita. Those mini tacos might be nice, having some mini tacos.
Love some mini tacos. Sometime before the show, I should actually get some real tacos and have them in front of me to eat during the show. And maybe you should too. And maybe our audience members can get tacos.
Yes, I think mini tacos is a great idea. And of course, we all have our drinks here.
Mm-hmm.
Today is a big show. We are talking about all of the latest hot gossip, hot topics, hot politics.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is in trouble. I don't even know where to start. It looks like, for starters, Big Bad Willie has gone missing. Prince Willie has gone AWOL. Princess Kate has gone missing. Nobody has seen her since the Christmas holidays. I don't know. What do you think's up with Kate?
Yeah, well, we know what's going on with Kate. Poor thing is recovering from major abdominal surgery. Didn't you say that it was an abdominal resectioning?
I think it was an abdominal resection.
That's extremely painful. And isn't there a long recovery period for that?
Yes.
In fact, she was in the hospital for 2 weeks. Was quite extraordinary.
What did you say?
The fact she had to be in the hospital for 2 weeks was quite extraordinary.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem. If you do have, I'm sorry for the cough. I'll try and not cough into the microphone. If I was studying this last night, bowel resectioning, and the problem is that how if you have a surgery, they have to cut through the cutaneous tissue, they have to go through the subcutaneous, they have to go through the adipose tissue, right? So they have to go through multiple layers. They have to cut through the fascia, the skin, the fat, the prefascia, the fascia, all the way into the muscle layer. Then they have to get to the abdominal layer. And then when they get into the abdominal layer, your own abdominal muscles, like when you do crunches, and then they have to get past that layer, and then they have to get into the actual smooth muscle of the intestine.
Yes.
So if you're talking about recovery time, what doctors are saying is that there are multiple layers to the recovery when you have any kind of abdominal surgery. And the first is that you just have to make sure that there's no infection, because sepsis, if an infection, peritonitis, if an infection, if you could accidentally nick the side of the intestine and cause an infection. So for the first couple of weeks, the patient really have to be very careful about infection.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think that might have been how Rudolph Valentino died, peritonitis. So, the story was there was an appendectomy that went wrong. Now, I don't know. I'd have to research that.
That makes sense. No, that makes sense.
But there was something connected to that, because the man was only 31 years old when he died.
Yeah. So what we think may have happened was, so she had to go in, something was amiss in the abdomen. And so that is the multiple layers that a person has to go through. And then say, for example, the intestine heals up and you might temporarily have a pouch. So part of it, they have to remove the part that's diseased and then bring those two parts together. They might have a slight slip area open so that she can have a pouch, and then that will be closed. And that's just to reduce pain, because you can imagine how hard it is to push after you've had a resection.
Right.
So they might temporarily have a bag, and then they would remove the bag.
Well, Desi Arnaz had to have a surgery like that. He had to have a temporary colonoscopy. Not colonoscopy. What's the word for it? Where you have to wear.
He had to have a colonostomy bag. Yeah, she might have it.
He had that. He had to have that. He had to wear it for several months.
Right.
After the divorce from Lucy, he got very, very sick, and that happened.
Yeah, so that's probably So that's the next phase. So after she gets out of, she didn't get an infection. That's great. She was isolated. Now we know that the section went great, according to, I'm assuming they're telling the truth, but now she goes through the next phase, which is they don't want her to tear her stitches. So if she twists, like if you're playing sports, or you're hitting a hockey puck or something like that, or a golf swingers will often tear their stitches.
Yes.
So she's really encouraged not to make any jerking movements. So they tape you, and you do have a bag for a particular period of time. And so, you don't want snooping reporters trying to see the bag. And it's just,
of course, and they will, the way the paparazzi are.
Right. And she's a professional photographer. So when I put myself in the shoes of her as a remote viewer, I saw myself setting up for a photo shoot. And I realized, as Kate Middleton, as a remote viewer, that I have the training to do this. And it's like, I take photographs all the time. I'm a trained photographer.
Right.
I can happily do my family's photo shoot. That's not the problem I'm having as the photographer setting this up.
Right.
But we can shoot this with my family. The problem I'm having as Kate is the snooping and the invasiveness, and the fact that I'm going to have to be putting on the perfect photo shoot, because I'm also planning it as the photographer.
Yeah.
So I'm planning it as the subject, but I'm also planning it as the photographer.
Oh, yeah.
So it puts me in a terribly difficult situation.
Well, also the way the paparazzi operate, because living in Los Angeles, I have actually spoken to paparazzi photographers. I've caught them in action photographing celebrities. I don't particularly care for it, but where we used to work at Earth Bar, it happened a lot. And one of the photographers was taking pictures of Jennifer Aniston. It was just simple. She was across the street at a restaurant feeding pasta to her dog. And he told me he was going to get about $7,000 for those pictures, because they were going to be sold all over the world. Now, a big steak picture, like, her bag being shown or something, that could fetch $1 million or more. So you bet your life.
Right. And then if she does do a photo shoot with her kids, and she's got a little blanket and she's set it up with the timer, and she's got her lighting down, and it's like, okay, let's all do a cuddle. She's not going to tear anything. She's keeping it easy. She's working from home. She's working with George and the kids. People are still going to what did we see there? Is that a tube?
They are.
Is
Of
that
course they are.
oh man, I agree with her. I get out of my freaking business. Let me heal my
Yeah.
life.
Well, you know what this is reminding me of? If I can just tell this quickly, it was when Elizabeth Taylor had to have brain surgery. Her head had to be shaved. And she learned that paparazzi photographers had a high bounty for whoever could get the first picture of her bald. And so what she did this is self-empowerment. She had a photographer come up to her hospital room and took pictures of her, and she sold the pictures herself and used the money for her AIDS charity.
Yeah,
Rather
I
than
think
let
that,
the
you know,
paparazzi
that
have that.
sounds like something that would be really great for Kate. And I think
Yeah.
that she comes out of this,
For
it's going to be
advantage.
great because I felt as Kate healing from this, like I'm almost too private, like not wanting to talk about the weight loss, not wanting to talk
Yeah.
about the health challenges and personal emotional health challenges. And in a way, it did a disservice because if I had been a little bit more honest, I could have downplayed the emphasis on my figure so much. I felt like a kind of responsibility for this size 0. Oh, look, I had 3 babies and I'm a size 0.
Yeah.
When the truth of the matter is, it felt to me like this person had real health challenges.
I'm just thinking of all the good she could do.
Yeah.
For people who have had to go through
Gains
similar
20 and
procedures.
isn't it gonna be great when she gains 20 pounds and says, "Yes, I've had 3 babies.
Yeah, this is normal.
This is
This
my
is
normal weight before I wasn't well.
Yeah.
I had to get medical care, and now I'm absorbing my nutrients. Now I'm getting
Yeah.
and this is my natural way."
Exactly. You could do tremendous good.
Right.
If I just thought out about Elizabeth Taylor again, one of the reasons she wanted to sell the pictures of her bald, she said, I want other people who have had to lose their hair through chemotherapy or brain surgery or illness or whatever. Look, if I can appear bald, so can you. It's okay. And that was a powerful message. And Kate's got that possibility.
Yeah, I mean, because this is such a common health challenge for people in the West, and there's a lot of reasons why. There's genetics plays a huge part, but there's, I mean,
Dietary too.
well, supposedly she actually is a really fitness oriented, and she's on a really good like 80-20 diet. The girl takes good care, and she's a huge fitness person. She's big, big, big into fitness. So it could have just been, look, if she had 3 babies, that's already going to put her at risk for some health problems. Like, for example, you're at higher risk for uterine prolapse and you're at higher risk for hemorrhoids.
Mm-hmm. And also just the weakened lower pelvic wall.
Exactly.
Makes you more vulnerable to things like hernias, ruptures.
Yes. And if she had a cesarean, we
were training for my NDA.
It was part of your final. But if you have a cesarean section also, that could potentially weaken or damage the abdominal wall. That's another thing you have to take into consideration.
Do we know if she had cesareans for her births?
I don't know, but certainly there are things we think about when a woman's given birth that she could be having certain health challenges, like incontinence is more common in women who've given birth than women who have not. Yeah,
and certainly her high stress lifestyle also. I remember when we were in the health business together, Earth Bar, a common issue were people with intestinal problems, constipation, diarrhea, horrible digestion. And we were in LA with a lot of people in the show business industry and so forth, major stress. And the solar plexus region tends to manifest a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the observation I had.
All right, so we're going to go ahead. We'll do the Empath prayer, and then we will get to some of your Blitz questions. I know John Weber has an amazing question I definitely want to get to, and I know we have a ton of other stuff. We're talking about art today. I'm so excited about the book club today. I got chills. I can't even believe it. Don Daniels in the house. Woohoo!
Yes. And it's a terrific book. I learned a lot.
Yeah, so we have Don Daniels in the house later at 6 o'clock, Evolution Through Contact. You'll want to stay for that. Of course, we'll be doing some blitzes. And I think what we're going to do now is we'll go ahead, we'll do the Empath prayer, and then we'll get into the show. Sound good?
It sounds terrific.
Okay. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together, collectively, we say, Amen.
Amen.
Okay, the first question, and this is one that John has brought up and would like us to get a little bit more into, and I would really like your opinion about this, Chuck, is this idea that we come in with a soul group, maybe we share the same higher oversoul. We have individual soul,
Yes.
right? We have nefesh, ruach, neshama. We have multiple aspects to the soul. We have higher aspects and we have lower aspects. The individual soul or animal soul or consciousness is the nefesh. So we all have our own unique animal soul or persona in the lower realms and in the lower heavens, right? So that's called a nefesh, or the animal soul. And all animals possess a nefesh. All life forms contain some form of consciousness or nefesh, or the animal soul. And this is something that you and I have talked about, where you have had conversations with people who have passed over, and rest assured their personalities remain intact.
So.
Talk a little bit about that, please.
Oh, very much so. Almost to the point where I worried it was even my imagination when I first started doing this. It was only through working with other psychic people, spiritual teachers who acted as my checks and balances, helped me confirm that I was channeling authentically. But I've said this, sometimes I will keep concurrent notebooks with 3 or 4 different souls I'm communicating with. And, it usually comes to me a few words at a time, and I just start writing. I don't go in any trance or anything. I just write as I feel, but it always makes sense once I read it back. And what is really fascinating to me is how the distinct personality always comes through for each one, especially when I have 3 or 4 things in the same souls in the same notebook, and they're so distinctly different. And one thing I love is that humor often comes through. Most of these souls have great senses of humor, and they have a very personal wit that's so distinct. And it's often something that I would never come up with myself, which is further authenticated.
Yeah, and from the perspective, John, of the Akashic field or Akashic records that we as empaths or remote viewers make contact with, it's in the Akashic field. I can go in and have those conversations with those people and those personalities because they remain forever in the matrix, in that dimension, whether they are, they will always have that nefesh, that animal or that base soul. Yeah. The ruach, or the breath of life, that we let go of when we pass. You feel the breath leave. You also feel the breath leave when you fall asleep, which is a type of passing into the next realm.
Yes.
Yeah, and so when we wake in the morning, there's often tume. Tume is spiritual uncleanliness, and it's spelled in English. I'll spell it this way: tume. And often you'll have a film, a dirty, unpleasant film on your hands and feet. And so it was advised to wash the hands and feet upon rising to release this negative tume, that unclean energy that was collected when the soul leaves and returns back to the body. A sticky kind of film can be collected. It's almost like that sticky grime in the eyes.
Yes.
To wash it off, they recommend, this is why Jewish people will wash the hands on waking, and some will also wash the feet, is to get rid of the tume.
Religion feet. It's considered sacred and holy. I had never made that connection.
Yeah, which is
paying attention to my hands in the morning now, but I know what you mean about the eyes. And I also think of that term we often use, spiritual hygiene.
Yeah. So in answer to, and now when we talk about soul groups, I know that you have some amazing soul groups, and you and I have talked extensively about your soul brothers and sisters. And what do you feel your personal relationship is with your soul group and the people that came into your life?
Okay. Now, by soul groups, are you referring to in spirit world, or do you mean
Both.
human?
They,
Both.
you have obviously have you have a very strange, supernatural, irrefutable relationship with Lucille Ball.
Well,
This is
yes.
irrefutable. I mean, the man flew to her hometown, painted in her. I mean, like, you're one of the painters for her in her home, right?
I'm actually the only painter. I was commissioned to create family portraits that now hang in the living room of her childhood home in Celeron, New York. A wonderful woman named Mary Rappaport owns the house. She spent a lot of money and a lot of care over 2 years restoring that house to the way it was in the 1920s. So my job was to paint the Ball family as they looked in 1920, like 8-year-old Lucille Ball, her little brother Fred, who was about 5 at the time, their grandparents, their mother. But yes, I often think about that, the way Lucy is such a part of me. And now I am literally a part of her childhood home 100 years later.
This has happened to him twice. He had a supernatural relationship with James Dean, the same exact thing. James Dean showing up in his dreams. I want to have a relationship with you. I want you to paint. Let's work together. Yeah, it doesn't matter that I'm dead and you're alive, buddy. Let's work.
No, it doesn't. You don't even think of
baby.
them.
Work with me. Then what happened with you and James?
I never think of them as dead. Well, my artwork is in his hometown of Fairmount, Indiana, but very prominently. There's the street, there's a famous photograph of him walking down the sidewalk. It's just iconic. And he's in his farm clothes. About 50 feet from there, all of my artwork is there now, and an Airbnb bed and breakfast. And there's this big lighted sign I designed of him from Rebel Without a Cause.
Who gave you the job? And who gave you the job?
The job was given to me by Jerry Traub, who owns the Airbnb. But in turn, this was all overseen by James Dean's family, his cousin Marcus Winslow, who controls the estate. Wonderful man. I got to go there.
Normal. Do you understand? That's
no, believe me.
What's been happening to you is not normal.
Yeah, I'm part of the downtown Fairmont landscape.
So that, I think, is what John is talking about. Like, clearly, we have these soul pods or these people. Some of them are mentors for you. You actually have a spiritual relationship with 2 of your mentors.
Several.
So, do you think it was something that happened before you were born, that you had a karmic relationship with these 2 actors and being an actor yourself? Or do you think it was a spiritual decision? These 2 people will be mentors now.
James Dean, I'm not so sure about past lives. Definitely a spiritual decision. Definitely he came to me. I mean, I've told the story and I don't want to belabor it here because we don't have a lot of time, but it was the first time I ever saw East of Eden. And I just felt like electricity going through my whole body. And that night I had this unbelievably vivid dream. Where we all have these dreams. They're so real. It's like the person is right there in front of you, looking you in the eye. And he wanted me to take him back to my hometown in Virginia. And it was in real time. It was like 3 a.m. where it was still dark, no traffic or anything. And we were actually floating off the ground, holding hands. And I was pointing out things to him, like my high school, my house where I grew up and everything. He was like, hey, this is cool, man. It's cool and everything. 30 years later, I'm in his hometown, Fairmount, Indiana, and installing my artwork there and becoming part of that. Because spirits don't think about decades or time. It was like a leap and a jump. And there I am at the farmhouse where I grew up with his cousin. And by the way, a piece of my artwork is now in that house too, because I gave it as a gift. And I wish I had it here to show you. I'd have to walk across the room to get it. But I own a piece of artwork James Dean did. So he's in my home. I'm in his home now. Plus,
I'll wait for you to go get it. And then
okay, then
yeah.
Let me get up. Talk to you.
Yeah, because I would like to see that. And thank you to Debbie Brady. Debbie Brady was kind enough to actually go and get the formal translations from the Hebrew. Nefesh was always understood to me to be like the animal or the most base aspects of our soul. Actually has a physical or density to it. So when people die and pass over, they will often talk about the fact that they feel like they have a type of physical body. And that's kind of like my understanding is that that's the nefesh. That's that physical aspect of the soul. Yeah, and I wanted you to show a painting today, but we were talking about soul groups. I know that part of your, so first of all, before we show the painting, so soul groups are they a part of our soul, our higher soul in the higher realm? Do you think that they're a part of us?
That's a good question. I've always, I think, have thought of them as separate from me, but maybe there is some validity to that they are part of us. In that connection, those chords, because I definitely feel I have chords with them, connection chords. Would you consider that part of us?
Well, yeah, I think it's what Debbie is talking about. And it's going back to what John was saying, is that you will always have your own self. There will always be a Chuck. There will always be a Whimsy. You will always have your internal sense of self. Well, you could have multiple incarnations. But in addition to that, as we evolve up the ladder of consciousness, we lose ego and we merge into more the neshama, I think,
Yes.
or the collective consciousness. And the collective consciousness, or the sea of collective consciousness, is more of the pods. And then so it's kind of like rivers that go to the sea, you would think, right? Because you
Yeah.
have these lakes and streams and rivers. And I think that's kind of, well, that kind of goes back also with what the Buddha said, that it's kind of it can change forms, go with the flow. And on this, we have this base sense of self, or these 10 worlds in Buddhism, right? So in Buddhism, John, they talk about 10 worlds, right? So they are all existing simultaneously at the same exact time. And I think that would not be in conflict with the um, Kabbalistic view, in the sense that, yes, you are the Buddha, you are all consciousness, all is one. If you're talking about the Buddha consciousness,
Respect
but you also are the person who's in hell, who's not happy with your life in whatever aspect, which is like the most base parts of being an animal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Feeling it. So basically, Buddhism would say all realms exist simultaneously.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So we couldn't exist otherwise without all of these dimensions. I always just, what you said about letting go of the ego to rise to a higher consciousness, I've often thought I could never communicate with these souls unless I did shed ego, and I just approached it from total humility and sincerity. And I always approach it with love and respect.
Mhm.
Maybe that's one of the reasons why they will come to me. They trust me for that reason. I don't know how others feel when they do their channeling, but that's my own thing. I always practice extreme humility. But
Can I see your painting?
of course, let's see if I can hold this up. As you can see, it's kind of a vulgar drawing. It's a ballpoint pen drawing that James Dean did for Geraldine Page when he was having an affair with her, love affair. Her daughter confirmed they were definitely having an affair with each other. In fact, Geraldine Page even said James Dean was the great love of her life. He did this drawing for her. Now, as you can see, it's a very R to X-rated drawing, very irreverent, just like James Dean. Can you see it? It's a cat fornicating with a woman. Can you see that? And yeah, guess who's the cat? The woman is. I've always thought James Dean was a very feline like actor, like a tomcat, very, very masculine, very tough, but at the same time, very poised, very graceful, elegant. Yes, pet me, pet me. But then they turn around and bite you on the hand when they don't want you to pet them anymore. I've always thought that James Dean is like a cat. And so it's interesting that that's how he saw himself too, as a cat. That's how he drew himself. And I couldn't resist buying this. It was many years ago when I was able to afford this. I just couldn't turn down the chance to have a piece of James Dean in my home, because it's one thing to have an autograph, but to have a drawing, it's his
Mhm.
soul, it's his talent, it's his imagination, it's several minutes of his life captured on this little piece of paper here. And it's got the history of Geraldine Page. It was sold by the James Dean Gallery in Fairmount, I guess because it was too X-rated to put on display, because they have children coming there and families.
So is that the original or is that a copy?
No, this is the original. This is a
Are
drawing.
you serious? What are you going to do with that? You're going to just keep it?
I have it on my wall. I love it. I adore it. I
Oh my
cherish
God,
it.
that's crazy.
It's a piece of his energy, his talent in my home. That's why I wanted it, and I've had this for many, many years. It's one of my treasures.
Wow.
Yeah, anyway, you asked me to go get it, and I wasn't planning on showing this, but yeah,
Wow.
because I have a piece of my artwork now in his home in Fairmount, Indiana.
Very cool.
It's a trade-off.
All right. Well, not to usurp your beauty, the beauty of you and the beauty of your art, but getting back to one of the main stories that people asked about in their comments, could we please talk about what the heck happened to Prince William?
Yeah,
This is the first hot topic. I got a list here for people. Don't worry, I'll get to everything.
I saw one of the questions.
Was I not nice? I got everything to you early. Prince
Wonderful.
William, yes, today he pulled out of a memorial service for his godfather, King Constantine of Greece. He said for personal reasons he was not able to attend. People are speculating what some of the personal problems are. They say it can't be Kate. Kate's doing fine, isn't she? So what do we think is going on that has led to his personal problems? That he lazy? This is one. Is he the lazy royal that only wants to come out
Wow.
and work if Harry is getting attention at the Invictus pre-party or
I think
something?
it's much more complex than that.
You know what I felt when I went into this energy?
What?
I felt like I was an emotional wreck.
Yeah.
I felt as when I was asked to like embody this person.
Yeah.
I felt that I was an emotional wreck. I felt like a lot of stuff had been going on and I had to take care of my emotional health. My father is sick.
Yes.
People are accusing me of things, true or not, being a drunk, abusing my wife. My wife is having medical problems. In plain words, I've got a lot on my head. Do I want to show up with all my relatives and the press staring at me, trying to dodge uncomfortable questions?
I was going to say, in the old days of the monarchy, which is not that long ago, they were very good at just shoving their emotions down and going out and doing their duty. If you watch a miniseries like The Crown right now, you see a lot of examples of that. Maybe it's a point where now they're saying, no, this is not healthy. This isn't good for me. I need to take time for me, for my well-being. Do you think that's part of it?
Well, Prince Andrew led the procession. So what does that tell you about this? Goes back to, or this
He's
is
like the black sheep of the family now.
Well, he had to lead it because literally nobody from the immediate family attended. Literally everybody walked off the job. I mean,
You
think
didn't
about
realize
it.
it was everybody. I didn't know that.
I mean, he's the godfather. It's King Constantine, and they literally didn't show up for the guy's memorial. I mean,
That was strange. I didn't realize that.
well, the king wasn't there. The prince, neither prince was there, and the princesses were. I mean, it's like literally everybody was AWOL.
Well, it's like the king has an excuse. Yet he's dealing with cancer right now. William could always use the excuse, well, I have to take care of my wife and my children, and of course, as you said, the princess is not available. But yeah, I thought other members of the royal family would have been there.
Well, let's go ahead. Yeah,
It's Anne, maybe, it's Edward.
I think I'm right that I just felt like it's a lot on my plate right now, and I don't have the mental wherewithal to deal with this. But maybe pull a couple cards. Let's see what you get.
Let me see here. Let me just shuffle this here and see. No, what are we asking specifically?
Why wasn't he there? Why did he cancel?
There. Oh my God. This card literally jumped out. Look at that. Despair.
Yeah.
Despair.
Yeah. I mean, he's just, despair. I don't know what's not. Maybe his wife really is sick. Maybe it's more serious than they're letting on.
It could very well be. Could very well be. I think it could be a number of factors. We had a question a while back here. I'd have to scroll to look for it, but someone was asking if William could even be in rehab right now for his drinking.
Well, the sarcophagus, is that how you say it? If I were, look, remember when I was asked to do a profile on them last year? Would he go to therapy? The fact that his wife wanted to talk about the emotions. Let's talk about your emotions. After the Queen died, the funeral happened. They went back to Buckingham Palace to see how the cleaning up before the king moved there. So they had to oversee how has the Rehall been doing. So she and William, Kate and William showed up for that a couple of days. I think it was about a week after the funeral. And Kate had said, how is the staff doing? How are you doing emotionally? And she wanted to talk about, Pete, let's check in on everybody emotionally, which is a really important thing to do. And William immediately didn't want to talk emotions. He wanted to talk just the rebuild. Let's get everything up and running. My father's moving in, kind of a thing. So it was interesting to see that she wanted very much to talk about emotional health, and he wanted to do everything in his power to avoid emotional health. And
what intrigues me is he's acting so much like his father. Kate is acting so much like his mother, Diana.
Mm-hmm.
Diana was all about talking about emotions, get feelings out, and hence Charles. We know where that went.
Yeah, I think it's just grief. Last thing I wanted to mention on the royals that somebody had already brought up, and I thought this was rather ingenious. It was so ingenious that I thought, you know what? We need to talk about this on the show. Somebody had brought up left temporal lobe head injuries. Y'all heard about this left temporal lobe head injuries? So, in left temporal lobe head injuries, let me see if I can open this up. That's an area of the brain where you have to be very, very careful, because if you're not careful, it can cause violence.
Right.
It causes violence. It's a notorious area of the head where you never, first off, it's the frontal lobe area. That's partially hit with him, right?
Thinking,
But you also see that the temporal area has been injured. This is when he got hit over the head as a kid.
Okay, I didn't know he was hit over the head as a kid.
Yeah, so
Did you know about that?
Well, his head got cracked open. He got his head cracked open by a golf swing.
Oh my God, I never knew that. And weren't you telling me that Harry had a lot of anger issues as a child? And
red hot raging anger. But but if you look at the work of Dr. Amen, who talks about brain health and specs, this particular type of injury specifically, the left temporal lobe, is associated with violent outbursts, irrational behavior, and it can damage the amygdala and other structures. And so it's just an injury where we see potential permanent brain damage that can cause violent, irrational behavior. And this is certainly someone who's been accused of violent, irrational behavior in the past.
Yes, that I knew.
So just something to think about.
Oh, that is quite a theory you just brought up.
Somebody, I don't know if they're here today, somebody had brought it up, and I thought, that's rather ingenious. I think that we should definitely talk about it.
Yeah.
All right. Next thing up on the list people wanted to talk about has to do with the fact that Biden is confident that Israel will get to a ceasefire by Monday. Let's talk about it. He basically, Biden wants a ceasefire by Monday.
Well, that would be wonderful. What would you like me to ask?
In Israel. Well, let's first talk about it. Let's debrief on this a little bit. So Israel's been clearing the north, and they've been pushing people towards the south. They've 30,000 people have died. They claim 6,000 were Hamas fighters. Prior to the war, Hamas had something like anywhere from 20 to 40,000 active fighters there. So some of the fighters, if you go into the energy, if you do remote viewing, some of the fighters have fled. They're taken off. They're fleeing. Live to fight another day. They've taken off to Tunisia, etc. Now Rafah Gate is being built up by Egypt because they don't want people flooding into the Egyptian side. But let's go ahead and let's take a look and see if we can get to ceasefire in a week. If they get to ceasefire, then they'll do an exchange of hostages, and then we might be able to see about Hamas maybe going and moving to Tunisia or somewhere else. Ceasefire.
Okay. I want to make sure this is right. I had 2 cards pop out.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
okay. I got, and I'm not sure quite what to make of this. Maybe you can make more into it with your reading, but wherever it's worth, these are the 2 cards. I got decisions, and discipline. Decisions and discipline. Now, what do you make of that?
I got the same exact thing.
Really? Now tell me.
To a roll of the dice decision.
Yeah.
Crack that whip discipline.
Wow. Damn, we're good.
Right. So,
I'm actually amazed by that. These 2 cards jumped out at me.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah.
And discipline. So basically what Spirit is saying is that it's a roll of the dice, but with discipline we can get there because you've got light and darkness, good and evil.
Yeah.
But look at the final outcome, which is the swans. I think anybody who wants a copy of the Oasis One protocol who is Palestinian should get a copy. Anyone who, from both sides, everyone should get a copy. And everybody should work to get Netanyahu to retire. Yeah. We're moving towards 2 of Cups, which is the swans.
Oh.
So
a good feeling. The swans.
Remember, 96% of people are good, and I believe that we are not looking at Armageddon. I believe we are headed towards perfection. The time of Putin is coming to an end. We can do Putin. That was the next question, by the way. People wanted to know. People are scared about Putin, his re-election. Did you have anything more to say about this?
No.
Move on to Putin?
I'd say let's move on. Yeah.
All right. I think there was one more question about that. The rebuild will be successful. I think this is going to I think we are going to. You got that? Yeah. So basically we got that it's 50-50, but with hard work they can get there. And then the next question had to do with Putin and the fact that Putin, unfortunately, has taken another city. Like they're taking more ground hold on, I'm just checking this question. Thank you guys, by the way. Everybody who sent questions in the comments section last week for the deep dive, I really appreciate it. We got like 50, 60 questions, so much appreciation. So the Putin question, there were multiple questions about this. The first question is that people are very concerned about the fact that Johnson and there's a holdup in the GOP. Is that what you guys were talking about? So basically, it looks like Mike Johnson, is that how you say his name? Mike Johnson and Biden are meeting right now to resolve the conflict that's happening with the GOP not approving funding to Ukraine. So as a result of that, Ukraine is running out of arms. So the first thing that people are worried about is, could we first check on Ukraine? Just do the cards on Ukraine. So you want to do that first?
Sure.
Okay.
Ask, how should I phrase this question? Is
What's the future of Ukraine over the next couple of months? Like, do we get good work or good or bad on Ukraine first? So good question, because
I started shuffling and a card just jumped right out, and I don't like this too much.
Okay.
I got deprivation. That just leapt out. What did you get, Whimsy?
Well, that's not good, but in war,
I don't like the card.
Okay, so deprivation.
Yeah.
Inheritance. They will get their inheritance. What's the second one after a ring?
Yeah. But I'm wondering if this card is maybe the immediate weeks ahead, perhaps.
No.
No.
Putin will lose for a number of reasons. It is despair, because we're at war, and it is a war, and their fighters are getting older and older. But if you look, it's their inheritance, the family tree of inheritance. They're not going to give up their inheritance. Also, I feel like the time of Putin is coming to an end. This is one of the questions that people freaked out about, because people are worried that if Putin is gone, somebody will replace him that's an even bigger lunatic than he is.
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
But this is a very good sign, because that's a proposal, and then again, crack the whip, and then you have this strong man coming in. I think that's Zelensky. But Zelensky also has a strong energy of almost like an assassination, because people are calling it Zelensky's meat grinder now. Like that, Zelensky is driving us to our, like they're accusing him now of the same thing that they're accusing Putin, because he will not accept ceasefire in exchange for Putin taking Crimea and anything else he wants. For now, it'll make him happy for now, and then in a couple months, once he rearms and he's able to rebuild his army, he'll take the rest of Ukraine.
Yeah, it's like an appeasement, temporary appeasement.
Which is why we can't make a deal with him on the Abraham Accords. Yeah. It's the same thing, right? Because, oh, sure, we give them money so that they don't attack, and then they use the money to rearm, and then they wipe us off the map.
Yeah.
So I guess we can next go into the next question. Thank you, Rose Blue. Is Mike Johnson and and the Republicans going to sabotage it, or is it going to get passed? Thank you, Joel Tilson, our floor director, is helping us get organized here. Thank you, Joel. So is it going to pass? I'm getting nervous.
Well, I had a card pop out for whatever this is worth. I got leadership. Leadership, like strong leadership will intervene, perhaps, to save the day. Or that's just the card that came out. I don't know how you feel with your own cards. That applies.
Well, not to be a scaremonger, but this is the whole scaremongering that we were hearing. You'd better give Putin what he wants. You'd better surrender, because if you don't, somebody else is coming and it's going to be even worse than Putin. So you better submit to Putin. What a stupid argument.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Sorry, but that's a stupid argument. The time is running out for Putin. Tick tock, in the garden coming. I set before you life and death, good and evil, the two doors. Nothing good can come from treating people like this. There's a attempt at a treaty coming in. I just don't see Putin's lasting. Look at this again, the offer.
This has come up in past readings also about Putin.
He desperately needs a ceasefire. He desperately needs us to stop fighting, so that he can rearm and rebuild his military. His military is wiped out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Rose Blue, she said, Russian fund has 1.5 billion rubles cash, 1.6 million. They're broke. Well, yeah. Remember when you guys had me go in and you're naughty. I'm not naughty. You're naughty. When they had me go in and break in, yeah, I broke in to the war cabinet, the Russian war cabinet. I came back and said that they didn't have any money and that they were going to fire Prigozhin. That's because they didn't have any money. And Prigozhin, look, private business wiped out Russia, and the concern is that they'll do the same thing to the United States. Private business will wipe out the United States.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened there. John Weber wanting to know if we're looking at a possible civil war, you know, what people are saying that are fighting Putin.
I've always wondered that myself.
We took out a previous czar. We can take out, if Putin acts like a czar, we'll take him out just like we took out the last czar.
Right. That was always the intuitive hit I had right from the beginning, like going back a year or two, that there was going to be some sort of public revolt to remove Putin. You know, so I thought when all the economic sanctions were going into effect and when people's lifestyles were seriously plummeting, there would be such massive anger, and that would have instigated a revolt.
Well, let's take a look and see if what kind of civil war we're looking at in Russia, because I think it's only going to get worse.
Yeah. I pulled. Okay. I had 3 come to my attention here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the first 2 cards, shame and despair. Then I got new beginnings. Shame and despair, new beginnings. Like this is the process to get to the new beginnings. You agree with that? What are you getting?
Yeah, I totally agree. First off, you've got the mask. So when you go into this energy of the mask, it goes back to what happened to Putin, where Putin has the honor guard. These are the best and the brightest, the children and the grandchildren of his top generals. So what is the biggest honor that you can get if you're an honor guard? If you're part of the elite Russian Ivy League military, your children get to be honor guards protecting Putin at his palace, right? That's the highest.
Mm-hmm.
So what has messed up Putin when I do remotes on Putin is that there were attempts of assassination. The honor guards tried to kill him, like just by keeping a window open and not securing the area so that he's had break-ins. This is terrifying for him because it means that the next generation that he trained to be his security, that he had no doubts, all of a sudden, who the hell are these people?
Mm-hmm.
The mask. It's the daughter, it's the dutiful daughter whose parents are generals in the Russian army or FSB, who has the mask and has the pretty great grades, and she never does anything wrong. Yes, Daddy. But meanwhile, she's working for the resistance. So you have this mask, this sabotage, and then communications, wiring, spies. So this can be a spy car, spying, communication, right? Traveling over. She's got this nice mask. Yes, Daddy, I love you. Oh, yes, I love Putin so much. And then meanwhile, she's over here with spying with some communication, opening up a key with the sun.
Yeah. People can put up that facade like that.
I think it's civil war, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always sensed that. Like I was saying, I just sense there's so much anger that it just has to rise into public revolt sooner or later. I've just always had that gut feeling that's what was going to take out Putin.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something to really think about, how much longer can this go on? Okay, so a couple of fun conversations to keep in mind before we close, and then we'll be opening up our book club, is to just think about seasons, thinking about weather, thinking about time. Do you think about the seasons, Chuck? Do you think about weather? Do you think about time? Do any of these things mean anything to you?
I live in Southern California. We don't have seasons. I'm being facetious, of course, but yeah.
All right, so would you say so you can't really say that you have seasonal affective disorder or anything like this?
Not really. Well, you know what? I'm the rare person who does not deal well with heat. So I actually kind of shut down during the summer months. I'm happier when it's cooler weather in the winter, but I don't know if you would call that what you're speaking of.
Right. Well, in traditional cultures, particularly in cultures where we see agriculture, agricultural
Yeah.
society, the phases of the moon are really important. And we see that also in the old religions, right? Even
Oh,
in
yeah.
Judaism, the Jewish calendar is a lunar calendar.
Yeah. Well, I'm very lunar sensitive. I'm a Cancer.
Oh, that's right.
In fact, this recent full moon really did a number on me and a number of my friends who are water signs, Scorpios,
Oh, really?
Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. We've all been extremely emotional, agitated easily. I had a couple of nights where I could not even sleep. I think you mentioned a night where you couldn't sleep. You were being affected by this.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, actually.
Yeah. Well,
I,
that was like
I had a patient today at 9 a.m. and at 4 or 5, something like 4 or 5 in the morning, something like that. I had to call. I had to text her and just say it's not going to happen. Well, she lived. She had there was a 3-hour time difference between us, and so that's what happened. Did I show? That's not what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you something else really fast that I thought was kind of fascinating, and just get other people's feelings about it, just in terms of thinking about whether or not you create these kinds of rituals. This is not something I do traditionally as an herbalist,
Uh-huh.
but energy rises and energy drops depending upon the moon cycle. So when you're creating something in magic, it's usually with the waxing of the moon as the moon is gaining, right? And then it gets to the
Yeah.
full moon and then it wanes. So right now we're in the energy of the waning moon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's been intense.
yeah, so the waning moon is a period during which the moon goes from full to dark once again. This time of the month is used to be baneful magic, so letting things go. So if you find yourself cleaning, wanting to remove the dust, it's a time of letting go. Get rid of or destroys things you no longer wish to be burdened by. This is a time is suitable for rituals associated with letting go and banishing. So I thought that
I
was
love the article. One of the things they mentioned was having 2 trash bags, one for trash and another for things you want to donate. Just go through your whole home. I thought, what a great idea.
wow, that is a great idea.
Oh, I loved it because you sent me the article. You said we were going to talk about it on the show, and I want to really go into it more in depth. I need to incorporate some of that in my life, especially the cleaning part.
Would you do it though? Would you be able to create a life for yourself where you had that kind of interconnectedness with the cycle of the moon and the seasons?
I would certainly be receptive to trying it and seeing how well it incorporates into my life. And I think because I am so lunar sensitive, it probably would serve me quite well. So I'm going to look into it. There was even a thing in there where there were charts you could send away to schedule your day and your weeks and your month according to the lunar cycles and the energy. I thought, hey, this is intriguing. I'm all for it.
I think
At least for 1 month.
you know why I liked it? Because they're now saying that human beings, as part of our mental health, we need structure. And this could be part of the natural structure, is connecting with the seasons. Like the food we eat is affected by the seasons. We do more roots in the wintertime and
Yes.
more leaves in the springtime. And so why not see if we can't, as part of our overall health, see if we can't connect a little bit more to the seasons.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. And yeah, I'm definitely open to trying this. Certainly, artistic, right brain person, I'm always searching for ways to ground myself, ways to be more structured and more organized. I thrive on it. Like I do very well when I just make lists or I just even semi-schedule my day. I do better. Some people don't, but I do.
All right, so we've got we started a little late, so we're going to do 2 more minutes and then we're going to bring Dawn on. But we had a couple more questions, and this had to do with Donald Trump. Looks like the Supreme Court does not want to hear his case about immunity, so he's not getting much luck in that area. And now they're talking about the fact that he could be arrested for encouraging people to threaten the judge.
Well,
Which judge was it? Judge Erdogan? Which judge was it that he was threatening? But he actually tweeted that he thinks Trump tweeted that he thought he was going to be arrested.
yeah, I knew he did. And I don't know what kind of ploy that was. I mean, you know, my feelings, I think the sooner the better that man is arrested.
So we'll do one more, and this was the last question that you folks had for, well, you had several, but that we're going to be able to get to today, and that is if Trump is in fact going to be arrested because of his threatening the judge.
I've got 2 cards here.
You go first?
First card, truth. I take that to mean justice, truth. And then the next card, loss.
Yeah.
Truth and loss.
I think he's going to be reprimanded to custody. He's going to, it could be house arrest.
Yeah.
Um,
Possibly for his first arrest.
It's not good.
No.
Something happens here, a confrontation. It starts off well, then the bridge, and then they hit him with the snake. I think look, man, you don't want the snake coming after you.
Yeah.
But also the snake is medicine, so I think this guy is really close to getting arrested.
Yeah. But as you said, it might be wrap on the wrist, a house arrest, an ankle bracelet, something like that. But this could quickly lead, don't you think, to another arrest, which would be far more serious?
I'm thinking house arrest. Dang, this guy went too far. Because I'm seeing Trump they are going to obstruct Trump from communicating. Look at this. He's got a mountain between him and his hands.
Let me ask you, how long do you think this would be enforced? Because this could seriously affect his ability.
He is I see him being blocked from speaking until the trial, and he could be reprimanded to custody, which could be a home or a facility or something where his electronics are controlled or curtailed.
That is astounding, especially if this could take several months. This would seriously affect his ability.
Well, that's the thing. Damn, God. That's why I don't think he's going to.
God.
In the grave.
Now, do you take that literally?
I think it's very bizarre because it's the clarification of the asp. So it's like a snake takes him out.
Gee.
Isn't that crazy? So just sit back and watch. But I'll tell you, with those freaky cards, just remember somebody from within his camp, a snake in the grass, took him out.
That doesn't surprise me. Does not surprise me with Trump's karma. Look how many times Trump has thrown people under the bus, sabotaged people. I mean, it just seems inevitable. Somebody eventually is going to get him.
Crazy.
Wow. But I'm still just, this is playing out like a big soap opera.
I think we're going to be okay, though. I mean, as long as we stay grounded, I think we're going to be okay.
Well, I just want Trump out of the picture.
I think he will be. Did you have a good show today? Did you have fun?
Oh, I love doing this.
This was such a fun show, and I really appreciated John Weber's question because it tied in so beautifully to what we were already talking about. So that was nice.
John Weber just said someone finally reveals him. That might even be with like the card truth.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Be sure, if you haven't had a chance to do so yet, to like and subscribe. And We just hope you had a real fun time with
Oh my gosh.
joining us for all of the fun readings. The next thing we've got going for you today
Yeah.
is that we're really excited to introduce you to Don Daniels. Don Daniels, Cosmic Citizen. Yes, he is a cosmic citizen. He is the author of Evolution Through Contact, how humans can evolve and become greater expressions of ourselves through alien contact. And I'm very excited to talk to him. Give a warm welcome, everyone, to Don Daniels. Hi, welcome, Don.
It is such a pleasure to have you here after reading your book. Oh, Don, where do we even start? This book is the journey.
It's so all-encompassing. I mean, it includes the lifting of the planet to the fifth dimension. You know, I mean, it covers all of that.
You know, we were talking earlier, you know, you obviously had a set intention for the type of book you wanted to do, and Spirit took over and took you in directions you were never expecting to write about. And this became much bigger. I've done that myself when I've been writing. But would you like to talk about that with us?
Well, you know, I had been doing some UFO field outings, Ambassador to the Universe trainings, and I wanted to share with people how to prepare themselves, create their own groups, and go out and initiate their own contact. And so start out as just a simple how-to primer on how to have your own contact, how to psychologically get yourself prepared for it and stuff. And like you said, Spirit took over. A lot of it just came flooding in. I had this foot in the middle of my back saying, get the book done, get the book done. The poems just totally wrote themselves. And
it's an exciting place to be, isn't it? It's like you're on a ride. You're riding a big wave of energy. I've been there when I've been working on a writing or artistic project.
Yeah, when I finished the book finally, it took about 2 years to get it out. I mean, it's more than just getting the words down. You got to choose the cover art. You got to get it edited, proofread, formatted. I mean, there's a lot to it.
Oh, I know.
But I got the book out, and I gave a number of copies to Tashina, and she kind of created a lending library. But she told me, we've been waiting for you to get this done.
Yeah.
And the people will learn a little more about who Tashina is here in a bit.
Yeah. Well, you definitely needed to write this book. I was thrilled as I was reading it because, you know, I had my own expectations in the beginning, and then it was like, yeah, this is my kind of book. The things you were talking about, into things like creative visualization, manifesting higher consciousness. I applaud you for it. You've done something remarkable here.
Yeah, it wasn't just the typical UFO book. I was there, this happened. It's way deeper.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I first started reading, when I got my copy, and I was delightfully surprised. Whimsy always chooses the books every month, and every month it's a gem.
Yeah, we got some good ones.
You picked the good one this month.
Can you talk about when you first made contact? What was your first contact experience?
Well, it went through progressive levels. The very first sighting I had was down in the Crestone area, down in the San Luis Valley. And we were in our circle, so we're watching all parts of the sky at once. And across the southwest sky, this thing came streaking. It looked kind of like a meteor, but different. It was more of a ionized trail rather than a meteor with chunks and flaming stuff breaking off. And then it just stopped instantly.
Wow.
And it was a big blue-white light, bigger and brighter than Venus, down in the southwest sky. And I said, that's no meteor. And Dr. Greer took his laser pointer and he went flash, flash, and the craft went flash, flash. I said, cool. And so somebody else in the group took a million candle power spotlight, flash, flash, and it went flash, flash. As a pilot, we see another aircraft, we'll flash our landing lights at them. And if they flash back, we know they see us. We're watching each other. We know that, we know where each other are, etc. We have other means, especially nowadays with the electronic stuff. But it's just a nonverbal way of saying, hi, I see you. Yeah, I see you too. So this was a nonverbal communication with what, to the best of my knowledge, was an ET craft. They came in, made themselves visible to us, communicated back and forth non-verbally. Now, I was just about to recommend that we try a prime number sequence, 1, 2, 3, 5, see if they do 7, we do 11, 13. If we could start to alternate a prime number sequence, if they could figure out what the sequence was and start to alternate with us, that would definitely prove higher intelligence.
Yeah.
Before I could even suggest that, this pale blue-white spotlight came out of the craft. It's about the color of faded blue jean material. It wasn't real bright. I mean, everybody could see it, but it wasn't painfully bright or anything. And it was like there were 18 of us there, mostly scientists, doctors, pilots, professionals, university professors. And this spotlight just hit our group, like a 40-foot circle right on our group.
That's beautiful.
And then about half of us could see the scan line go through, like on Star Trek when the bridge gets scanned. But on Star Trek, it's red. This was blue. Close enough, And then the light beam retracted back into the craft. It didn't just shut off. It retracted back into the craft, got shorter.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I have no idea how they did that. And I said, cool, we've just been scanned. And I thought, right about now, they probably know more about me than I know about me. And I think they put me in their database for future use. And that's kind of how I met Tashina years later. I had this was my first year out there. That was my very first night in the field. And I asked, does this happen all the time? They said, no, that was pretty exceptional.
Yeah.
A night or two later, I'm seeing these subtle humanoid figures off to the side of our group. They were like an old black and white TV where you had got a real weak signal and you just got the scintillating firefly lights, and you can kind of make out that there's a news anchor sitting there talking or something. You can kind of make out the form. And I couldn't really resolve it better than that. And then the next morning, all the people were going down to Donna's rock shop there. She was the healer in Moffat for the Crestone area. And they talked me into getting an appointment with her. And I said, I've never done anything like that. They said, well, just go do it. So I go down there, and she and her daughter worked me over for like 2 hours. I said, I don't know what's going on, but just open up any blockages I've got so I can more accurately perceive what's happening. And they had these 2 huge crystal singing bowls. And when they played the 2 of them together, their harmonics just vibrated all the way through to the core of my being. And then that night out in the field, I'm seeing these entities off to the east side of our circle much more clearly. So when Dr. Greer took a breath, which is rare, I said, Steve, do you see what I see? And he goes, oh yeah, I've been watching him for a while. I go, okay. So we stood up and we walked over to that side of the circle and formed kind of a gentle arc there. We're standing there with our hands, I try to get them up in the camera here, but palms forward, arms out, in as non-threatening a pose as we can. And rather than talking out loud because it'd be a big jumble, there seemed to be one being paired up with each one of us. And the one in front of me, I'm thinking, the poor thing, here I am so new and conflicted, and they've got to work with me. But I just started thought projecting who I was, what we were trying to do, that we were trying to establish some peaceful citizen diplomacy. And then I became receptive to whatever message I got back. And I expected like a voice in my head giving me a few words, a sentence or 2 or something. No, what I got was 2 very distinct, very powerful emotions: unconditional love and intense gratitude. I kind of went, huh? And now the monkey mind starts to pop in. And so it's probably a little less valid or reliable as to the second impression, but I got the impression it was that they were grateful there was anybody on this dysfunctional planet that wanted to work peacefully with them, create some peaceful relations rather than the military guys that were trying to shoot them down. And
Wow.
later this week, I got this ram dump that just like on Star Trek, when that history is scrolling by really rapidly and they got to jump through the portal at the right time. Well, it was like that,
Yeah.
but orders of magnitude faster, and it just dumped in. I go, well, I didn't get any of that on the way in. I just have to trust it'll come out at the appropriate times.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my first week out in the field.
Just your first week. Just a novice there. You actually answered like 2 or 3 of questions I was going to ask you, like when you mentioned about unconditional love and gratitude to raise your vibrational frequency. I love
That
that
is
part.
the key.
Basically, any of us who channel, that's exactly what we do.
Yep.
That's why I loved your book, how it tied so many of these elements together.
And I not only relay the story of what happened to me, but I give people chapter exercises. They get homework. So they get to practice these concepts and work on improving themselves and raising their thoughts and stuff to a higher level, to where they can get themselves ready for their own contact.
I noticed
Take
that.
them through the dark night of the soul.
Some of this, your book was a good refresher course for me, just bringing up some aspects of spirituality, creative visualization, manifesting. You told your story of how you made sacrifices, such as to still fly, because it was so intrinsic to your soul and who you were. You had to take massive pay cuts to do that, but you were listening to your spirit. You were listening to your guidance and manifesting what you wanted. I love that part of the book. I know that's a little off track, but your book was much more than just about UFOs.
Well, I didn't want to be stuck in a job that I didn't enjoy the rest of my life.
I've been there too.
I mean, it was okay, but the bureaucracy overwhelmed me.
Yeah. No, I've made some heartfelt decisions like that myself, and I'm a big believer in creative visualization, manifestation. I told you before the show, I was friends with Shakti Gawain, who wrote the book Creative Visualization. But anyway, I didn't mean to cut off Whimsy there.
Can you tell us who they were, where they came from, how long had they been observing Earth? What did they want? Like, should we be frightened of these beings? Did you get a physical description, a phone number? Did you share recipes? Details. We've heard that they're vegans that
surf man.
Well, we heard about the movies, and we also heard that they've been stealing people's fruit. Any truth to that? Lady said a saucer was over her home. The next day, all the strawberries were gone. No, all the cherries were gone. Another lady was sitting. She saw an alien craft by her garden. She pretended to be playing on her phone because she got scared. When she saw the guy, he had been stealing watermelons. So my question to you is this all BS? Or can they consume food? Like, tell us a little bit about these beings. Can they consume? Well, I guess if they're a carbon-based life form, they would consume. But can you tell us a little bit about who they are?
Well, most of the time we don't ask where they're from, partially because we don't want the covert government guys to be able to squeeze us to try and find out where their home worlds are. So we just take it for face value that they're, I mean, I've never had any negative feelings. I've never had any fear. It's always been, well, you attract what you put out. And if you're putting out unconditional love and oneness and a sense of oneness with all in the universe, that's what you get back. I basically can kind of preface a contact with, I only wish to work with those who are here in the best interest of humanity and our planet. And then nothing less can enter your space. So I've never had a negative experience on that.
Who are they? Who are they? Who are they?
Well, to paraphrase Pogo, we have met the ET, and they are us. We're a mixing pot planet. We're also a schoolhouse planet. So you take all the different races.
This is the whole debate with Elon Musk. Are we looking at aliens, or are we just looking at life forms that have been here the whole time?
Okay, well, let me correct your language just a little bit there. Tashina does not like the word alien. Okay. She says it's derogatory. Extraterrestrial's okay, especially for those who live off planet and then visit. She's like a Peace Corps volunteer who's came here early in life and has lived here most of her life, working among us, what you call it, cultural anthropologist and mid-level ambassador. And so she prefers, well, there was the first couple of years I knew her, she was way under the radar. And that was really tough for me because I'm very open with my truth, and to not be able to talk about one of the greatest secrets in our history. Let me go back to where she first dropped the bombshell. I'd met her at a mystical weekend, and she was kind of surprised that I was so open about my UFO encounters. And she asked how many of the people in the group had had any encounters like that. And so I asked the group at lunch, about half the hands went up. I said, thank you very much, carry on. She's like, whoa. So she shared a little bit. I mean, she was carpooling with me to and from the meeting. She shared a little bit about in her youth, her stepdad was in the Air Force. She'd been on the base radio station talking about something, and she's never really explained what it was. But she said when she came out, there was a Project Blue Book officer waiting to talk to her. And she thought it was just a nice guy, wanted to know what happened. She said it went downhill from there, and she had to hide out for several years. And she lived in Mount Shasta for several years. And then with the Native Americans in southwestern Oregon, and in the tunnels, I guess they've got quite a tunnel network where they can travel all through the Cascade Mountains. And she really only talked with the medicine men and the shaman. But she needed to come out. She was assigned to publicly start doing disclosure from the grassroots up, because it wasn't happening from the top down. The media, the government, et cetera, were not doing what they were supposed to. And she also was going to need to get her master's in education so she could have the creds to develop curriculum to teach the new generation of starseeds, indigo crystal, rainbow kids, that we sometimes label ADD, ADHD. The schools don't know what to do with them, so they drug them into normalcy and they destroy their potential. So she was trying to develop curriculum to teach them the way they learn best. But when she got into the big city to get her master's, she was just totally overwhelmed by what we would call mainstream civilization. So when I met her at this conference weekend retreat, I said, hey, we got a workshop coming up in a month or two with a friend of mine for people who've had encounters, and I think we've still got an opening if you're interested in joining us. And she kind of hemmed and hawed. Okay, and then almost chickened out, but she did come. So Friday night we get together, we have dinner, get acquainted. She's kind of just pushing her food around and playing with it, sitting in the corner, not saying much. Saturday, we set the basic ground rules, basic confidentiality, listen with an open mind, don't ridicule, etc. And then Mark and I would share some of our experiences to break the ice, let them know it's safe to talk. And all of a sudden, people who've been holding these stories inside for 20 or 30 years go, I can talk about it. And they would ram dump. And you could literally see their shoulders rising, just a ton of weight coming off their shoulders. We had one guy who was a little adversarial, and then she followed him, and she was kind of vague and evasive, but we didn't push. Sunday, he didn't come back. A couple other people had other commitments. We had a little smaller, more cohesive group. And as we're kind of wrapping up, I said, Tashina, I know there's a whole lot more to your story than what you've shared so far. I didn't know what it was, but I knew there was more. I said, now that you know the group a little better, you care to share a little more? She took a very deep breath and she said, Earth is a very difficult assignment. And as my jaw slowly hit the floor, I'm going, wait a minute, maybe I've got this backwards. Let's start over. So that's how that little bombshell dropped. Well, later on, when she decides to go public, I helped set up some meetings with groups that would be open-minded about it. We got like Boulder Exopolitics and the Denver Paranormal Research Forum and stuff. Obviously, a fundamentalist religious group is not going to be a good audience, but we got her a couple of presentations, and one of the very first ones, which was actually down in Pagosa Springs, I kind of set the groundwork. I gave my presentation, but I didn't spill the beans. And then we had a break. And during the break, she's talking, she referred to herself as human. And I said, but Tashina, I thought you weren't born on this planet. She says, I'm humanoid, aren't I? 2 arms, 2 legs, head on top, 2 eyes, etc. And I go, duh. You know, I'd been working in my mystical studies and stuff to see all people as fundamentally the same. It doesn't matter, you know, the color of your skin or the race or ethnicity or what part of the world you're from. We're all people. And as an international airline pilot, I've got a chance to go to 6 of the 7 continents. I've met a wide variety of cultures. But I had still had this subconscious human versus extraterrestrial. I had this subconscious barrier. She just destroyed it. It was gone. It's like, okay, I get it now. And so I said, well, how do you prefer to be referred to? And she said, well, extraterrestrial is kind of okay, but she preferred star cousin or star sister because she says we are biological cousins. We're descendants of races from all around this part of the galaxy that came here, settled. Part of the objective is to intermingle and try and learn to get along and create the best characteristics of all of us. And I said, well, how do you refer to us? And she said, Terrans.
What are we?
Terrans, residents of
I thought that she said Karens. I'm like, what?
Terrans. No.
You're Karens.
And so,
Oh my
it's
God.
been quite the journey. But I never have a conversation with her without a pretty good paradigm shift. And so, do I have phone numbers? Yeah, I've got her on speed dial, but most of the others, it's telepathic. And it was kind of funny because shortly after she spilled the beans, she was coming back out for a little reunion with the core group. And we were communicating on Skype, trying to set up the details. And she's not a techno geek. She says back home it's mostly telepathy. But I could see and hear her. She could see me, but she couldn't hear me.
Yeah.
And I did a real quick loop back test. Yeah, I'm going out. So I can type. So I hopped over in the text window. I'm typing furiously, and she's asking questions. I'm type. She started laughing hysterically. I said, what? What's so funny? And she said, your telepathy's working a lot better than your typing. She was in Arizona. I was in Colorado, but that doesn't matter.
So, for those people who are just joining us, we're here with Don Daniels, and we're talking about his amazing book, Evolution Through Contact. I think it's an absolutely fascinating book. You're a really good writer, Don. And on page 82, you have a poem where you talk about, how we are changed by these experiences. And I imagine that they too are changed by these experiences. And I'm wondering if either you could read the poem Evolution, or perhaps maybe Chuck, being the actor, might read it. But
I think Don should read it. It's his words.
Yes, I really,
Okay.
I really loved this poem. I'm wondering if you could read it
this
to the
is yours.
audience before we close today.
Certainly. It's called Evolution. What's an average person to do when your government no longer represents you? Now, mind you, this was written in 2004. Remember who was president.
Mm-hmm.
You can deny it, or you can hide, or you can fight, but you have to decide. I'm a citizen of the United States, a party to all the great debates, but it no longer makes me proud. I feel compelled to speak my mind out loud. My government does things in my name that makes me drop my head in shame. We didn't free Iraq for its masses, but instead for the people that make auto gases. We humans are all much more the same, the major difference is in our name. We all want the same outcome, peace, food, and hope for everyone. I've considered myself a citizen of the world without national flag unfurled. I feel more akin to the Afghan herder than to our leaders when they commit murder. But then I met some people from afar, discovered it matters not your home star. So as I now conclude this short verse, I consider myself a citizen of the universe.
I love that poem.
And like all the others, it wrote itself.
Yeah.
I had help.
Well, thank you so much, Don. I really enjoy this. I feel like 20 minutes is not enough to.
I did some radio programs, and if they go to my website, actually either Evolution Through Contact or BecomingACosmicCitizen.com, there's some links to some programs where you can listen to Tashina tell her story, and she's right out there telling what it's all about. There's also some interviews with Sergeant Clifford Stone that are totally fascinating. Some others, just scroll through my program, which was Becoming a Cosmic Citizen, and see what interests you. But I think the book takes people on a spiritual alchemy type journey. And if you take time to do the chapter exercises rather than just go, oh, what's in the next chapter? A little time in between, let it soak in, do the exercise, kind of get the feel of it, let it soak into your psyche.
I'm not to interrupt, do you think people will start to have more contact experiences? And if they do these exercises and are open to the process, that it will increase their chances of having a contact experience?
Oh, yeah. And Tashina said that back in 2012, they were finally given permission to kind of clean house here to level the playing field. They can't solve our problems for us. That creates planetary codependency. But they took out the negative influence. She said the grays are gone, the abduction era is over, and they were working on getting rid of the last of the reptilians in the deep underground bases. So they've given us a level playing field. The rest of the issues are ours to solve. We have to figure out how to do that. It's like you can't help the chicken out of the egg, or it doesn't develop the strength to survive. We've got to figure out how to solve our problems, but they've eliminated the external negative influences to give us a level playing field. So yeah, I think contact is increasing, and it's by and large, the vast majority is peaceful, beneficial, benevolent contact. And if you set the intention that that's all you wish to work with, that's what you'll encounter.
Awesome. So for those people, again, be sure and check out the book, Evolution Through Contact. Again, thank you so much, Don Daniels. I know you've written other things. Any chance you'll come back again if you have anything else?
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Please do.
And I'm working on getting this out in Kindle format. I don't quite have it there yet, but it'll be out soon.
We just didn't have enough time. I have like pages of notes here, questions. But
If they want to reach out to you, Don, do you have an email that they can contact you that you can type?
Yeah, I work 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off as a pilot still. And
good for you.
So sometimes emails just kind of disappear into the ether, but they can do spacepilot@comcast.net.
Spacepilot@comcast.net. Again, thank you so much, Don Daniels. I wanted to also announce that next month we have a new book. Yay, we have a new book, and gratitude to Leslie Kane. Leslie Kane, who is the author of our book for the month of March, Victims and Survivors. Journey from Dysfunction to Junction. That ought to be interesting, with Leslie Kane.
Can't wait to get
wonderful. Also, we have a new person who has won a free tarot reading with me. If you are a member of our fan club on Facebook, you can be entered to win a free tarot reading with me. Drum roll. Who won the reading, Chuck? Who won the round?
Won the reading. I was afraid you were going to ask me that. Let me see if I can find who the winner was. I don't know if I have it. Let's see. Just 1 second here.
Well, Debbie will mention it.
No, I've got it here somewhere. I didn't know you were going to ask me that question. I'm so sorry.
Do you have a YouTube channel, Don? Do you have a YouTube channel?
I've got one. I haven't used it yet. I need to transcribe a lot of my radio shows into YouTube because they get seen more than the.
All right.
But my radio program generally ran 2 hours, and we used every minute of it.
Yeah, I can see that because it's such an amazing subject. Monique Parent, you have a free reading with me. Please text me at 323-762-3982 to schedule your free reading with me. Stay where you're at, Don. Everybody else, we will see you next week. Be kind to all so that all can be kind to you. Much gratitude. Much gratitude. All right. God bless. We'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Don.